Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you to the lecturer of this course for giving me the opportunity to improve my grades. Okay, I will explain about perpetrators of sexual harassment, so recites the death
of
penalty
opposition.
Okay, there are 5 arguments in my opinion why the death penalty is not effective, not perpetrators, namely
1. The death penalty is considered to violate the right to life.
the National Human Rights Commission and human rights activists feel that their death criminal is not the right solution to end a series of cases of sexual violence which has now hit the country. The National Human Rights Commission has confirmed that refusing the death penalty does not mean defending the perpetrators of sexual violence. In the concept of human rights, my opinion also believes that the death penalty and criminal punishment is an action that violates the right to be free of certain of cruel and inhuman judgment. Therefore, where I say this sentence to fulfill the right of the victim, but by the way we violate the right of the people, it is like this. I can I can not much different from where I prepared this to. A fulfillment of women's rights, including victims of sexual violence, shall not be contrary to other rights.
2. Victims were afraid to report.
In my opinion, right of not to the criminal causing victims of other sexual violence to be afraid to report what they experienced because they were afraid of the figure they reportedly obtained a death sentence. In addition, it is also warned so that it should not allowed to victims of other sexual violence to be afraid to report what they are expressing because they are afraid of the figure they report can get a death sentence. This possibility saw the counterproductive side of the implementation of criminal death against the perpetrators of sexual violence. Therefore, in my opinion, the criminal of death against the perpetrators of sexual violence will actually make a safe space for victims disturbed and create a new fear for victims to report their experience.
3. The death penalty does not help the victim's recovery.
Not only limited to new fears, the death penalty also draws public attention away from the importance of recovering victims of sexual violence. In my opinion, many victims experience trauma and fear, but most of the law enforcement process do not solve the problems experienced by the victims. In fact, the aspect of victim recovery shall be prioritized, but shall legal, psychological, and medical assistance, so that victim can also undergo physical and mental recovery. In fact, the recovery of victims of sexual violence has become one of the crucial issues in the discussion of the draft law on sexual violence atau yang bisa disebut dengan RUU TPKS. Therefore, law enforcement of officials must really consider the recovery aspect before filing charges of the phishing and verdict. Eliminating the life of the perpetrators of sexual violence does not mean restoring the world suffered by victim. Therefore, law enforcement officials must really consider the aspect of conspiracy before filing a claim verdicts.
4. The death penalty can increase killer rate.
That the application of the death penalty in rape cases can increase the number of murders against victims because in order to silence the victim, murder will actually be a logical option to the taken by perpetrators. Their arguments well used by women activists in India, the Maldives, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal respond to the use of the death penalty for rape. For example, of capital punishment of sexual violence that occurred in India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. The problem of sexual violence is still going this country despite the implementation of the death penalty. Therefore, in my opinion, the maximum punishment is not limited to the death penalty. And finally, number 5.
5. Complicated legal handling.
I personally disagree with the death penalty because will this make someone or not, we do not know. Maybe yes, maybe not. But the death penalty can be very dangerous of the person accused of being a suspect was later guilty. It turned out he was not the culprit at all. So the legal system in Indonesia about sexual violence still imposes proof of victims. That is looking for evidence. We stick with the definition of victim. The one is the rule of explanation at the trial. Okay, that's my explanation as the opposition on the reason why I don't support the death penalty of perpetrators of sexual harassment in Indonesia. Okay, next video I going to the death penalty for perpetration of sexual harassment with the position of the government. Okay, 5 reasons for the death penalty for sexual harassing actor in Indonesia. Number 1, give a deterrent effect of the perpetrators of harassment. In my opinion, I agree to the dangers of the death penalty for the perpetrators because this is the momentum to give a warning to the perpetrators of the sexual violence. Regarding the extents of that they can abating the minds of punishment. This demands so the seriousness of law and influence official in saying cases of sexual violence, even until they dare to demand the mind of the death penalty, which means revoking the right to life. Punishment, of course, must have an effect of the perpetrators of the greetings of one form of a kind of positive law. Even the smallest from the punishment must be believed to provide deterrent effect to the perpetrator, so that it makes them do it back in the lecture. Likewise, with the death penalty, of course, it will cause a hair effect of the action that the actor have does. Then not only that, effect must be evolved by the communication as effort to prevent similar action by other. The death penalty is expected to have a significant impact of the decreases in the crime rate. If you talk about the effect, of course, the giving of the death in the penalty will be able to make the perpetrators feel very righting in his action. Moreover, this is where then becomes an important point. Of course, if someone has lost his deliverer and does not regret his action, this value of the humanity will also be considered none. So that must be that the penalty into the most appropriate way and choice to be learning for these people. the law and justice. The extent of law in noun the done establish the some legislating just for all participants in various kind of public law. Once more that in the law everyone has the same position, not seen from social status, amount of wealth, power or jihad, position or need. Of course, this liberation principle can be applied with the punishment given for its perpetration and violation of law. Moreover, the punishment was made as the perpetrator's responsibility for his action. The death penalty itself becomes a type of punishment considered curative contest. However, when viewed from the victim's point of view, of course, this will be worth it. For example, the death penalty for the remission of the kingpin and brain from terrorism attacks. Certainly, you will agree it's the preparation in sentence the death as one in the legal system in Indonesia today, because you can imagine that all of the fallen cities of George did now the perpetrators as well as the opposite. Of course, this makes the criminal whose culprit is very opportune to be sentenced to death. Number 2, not giving gaps to other actors. The death penalty is also from of a rule of law that an institution wants to demonstrate and uphold the principles of democracy in Indonesia. In imposing the death penalty and prisoners, of course, it is gone through a stake and also a long process. It happened that the death penalty will close the gap for other perpetrators. There are still potential preparation who already have a plan to community and a kind of lieutenant that called or result in a death sentence. Because if there is no real example of a crime with the imposition of the death sentence, then it will be able to cause everyone to get the same as what the perpetrators did. If it is so, then of course the law will have no value, because everyone can do what they want without considering the beating rules. It will be dangerous in the punishment could not have an effect on the perpetrators and other potential. The extension of the death penalty is trying and solution in law enforcement effort. At the same time, it also become an alarm of other potential perpetrators to rethink and contemplate the consequence that can be applied from the blind crime. Okay, number 4, worldly reply. There is a saying that says the depth of life must be played for by life. Of course, this addition is very familiar to our ears. Even so, as a stage of love, of course, only Halim and the court have the right to improve punishment for someone's action, as in the principles of Pancasila democracy. Punishment shall be varied in the sense that the word can refer to extending from the justice. So then people will believe that the law is a bully that cannot be constant. The death penalty is considered a recompense for the perpetrator's action against the victim. Of course, this from extension where this is something in the victim cannot give, not as a form of revenge, but rather as an effort to uphold justice for victims whose rights have been taken by force. cruel and inhuman. Okay, finally, number 5, creating a safe and controlled situation for the community. The death penalty is also considered to have a purpose which can make the situation more secure and conducive as the advantage of Pancasila democracy. This is because the death penalty will make a people afraid in the sense of fear of breaking the law and doing the same, because the consequences are already there are. It is clear that they will avoid them. So it is happen that this situation will be able to fight to education for the community to be more obedient to the law.